Hello again, people. Once more, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Yes, the little green space frogs bapping around in orbit are back at it again. Previously on A Leopard Plays, we'd managed to strand 3 of them in deep space orbiting between Eve and Duna, due to mistakes were made. I'm not going to lie about this one. I'm going to draw a line under that and move on. So what we need to do here is a bit of a rescue mission. I recorded this, I put all the video together, and I saw it was over 2 hours. So instead of that, you're getting me at this point talking in editing mode. So yes, so here we are. The yellow orbit there was the ship we're looking at. What we need to do is just see what else is going on here. Spoiler alert, those contracts are going to expire with the exception of Explore Eve, which doesn't have an end date on it. So, ship itself needs slight modification, which we're going to look at very shortly. And, the ship build is quite straightforward. This is the previous vehicle we did, with some extra boosters stuck on the bottom of it to get it to orbit with a bit more fuel spare. The science payload section removed, and an extra cabin stuck on the top so that Jeb and Co. can fit on board, because we now need space for 4 of them. So, fairly straightforward. Tweak the parachute arrangement slightly, but otherwise it's basically the same ship as went out before, as that pretty much has got what we need. So that's alright. Gave it a few more batteries, and off we went. Now, next up, we have a slightly different sequence here. It's going to take quite a while for that rescue ship to get out to where it needs to be. Kerbin's also in the wrong place for launching it. So the thought occurred, why don't I send something else to Eve to try and repeat this go to Eve and come back mission. It's got to be the same ship that goes out that comes back, and with this rescue mission, that's not going to happen. So I thought, I'm going to stick a satellite together. I'm going to send that out there. Give it a honking great comms dish so it works, and we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, the satellite for this one's a fairly basic one. Got a bit more extra science stuff on board. Got the batteries so it can transmit that science back, just in case things didn't quite go to plan. Also, so I could beam the magneto boom experiments and stuff back, the repeatable bits. Using the 1.8 meter bits here, which I'm not particularly familiar with, so I sort of switched back to the 2.5 stuff for the launch stage. Otherwise, we went up and we went there. The reason I'm showing this is because we do skip backwards and forwards to this thing during the rest of the mission. Otherwise, to be honest, I'd have just cut this bit out. Fairly reasonable launch profile, sort of gets up. It's going into planetary, so I'm not too bothered about its exact orbit to start with. As you can see, it's a fairly basic probe. The idea is the top bit is a re-entry vehicle. The bottom bit is the bus vehicle, and so on and so forth. Bit of a nuclear engine, and away we go. Then it's orbit, mess around for a bit, get it to an encounter with Eve, do the insertion burn, and send it on its way. Didn't get a very good encounter. I'm not launching in the right place. And as a result, when we get there, we need far too much fuel to enter orbit to be able to briefly pip into orbit and then pip back out again. So, an Eve deep space relay satellite has now been deployed instead of a science return satellite. There we go. Anyway, it got out there, which is it's the main thing. It got there. We'll skip over that, and we will continue and then move on to the next section. Yeah, so here we are getting ready for the insertion burn, which, as you can see, takes a while. Much better at 10 times speed. That just gets it on its way. Things staging partway through, and then we sort of just play around with it a little bit until we get the encounter. It's not a brilliant encounter, as I said. So off we go. Do some science. Beam it back. Yay, science! We love science. So back to the meat and potatoes of this particular video, so to speak. Here we are back with our rescue ship, loading this back up ready for launch, and just check everything's okay before it goes. Basically making sure nobody is sneaked on board who I don't want to be on board. So yes, as tends to happen when it loads up, it sticks active kerbals in if there is space for them. So that's gone. That thing gets on the pad. That thing gets ready for launch. And with that, I'm going to return back to the video and audio I recorded at the time to cover the rest of this particular bit. So I will see you again at the end. Thank you very much. Yeah, so here I have a reasonable ascent profile. Again, it's not a perfect lift-off. The craft performs somewhat better than before. Here we do actually get into space and orbit without having to fire up the nuclear engines, so that is a slight improvement over the previous one, which was the intent behind sticking those extra boosters on. Yeah, anyway, here we go. Okay, here we are in orbit. Slowly leaving all those bits and pieces behind. Right, this now needs... this thing here is my target for this one. So what I need to do... it becomes moderately close to Kerbin. That's not my target. That one is my target. That makes more sense. We need to get an orbit that's out somewhere. So in order to go out, I need to burn it while I'm there. No, that'll take me in. I want that one to take me out. Do that. So specifically don't want to get too near Duna. What has that just done? Oh right, I see. That's saying I'm going to go and hit going to go for a little mun flyby by the look of that. Where's that Minmus? Oh, there's the mun. So yeah, it's going to want that. I've got 5,000 odd meters per second performance on this thing. So we're going to do that. We'll take this mun flyby and we'll go and deal with it after that. Make sure that's not going to put me onto a silly orbital plane or anything daft like that. Don't believe so. This is one of these slightly unfortunate things. I don't really want a mun encounter here, but by the look of this, I don't have a great deal of choice just with the positioning. And yeah, this is going to take yeah, 6 minutes. So I'm going to fast forward. I will catch you at the end of this burn and we will see what we can do about it. Yes, yet again, the delights of the nuclear engines and the relatively low thrust they produce. Very efficient. Everything takes an age. And it could be worse. I could have gone with the ion engines for this, which are even more efficient and take even longer. Perfect for very small satellites, however. In theory, I could probably have gone on with putting 3 engines on this thing. In practice, it doesn't need the weight. So, yeah. Anyway, here we go. We're going to go out. We're going to do a sort of a little encounter with mun, and then we can get back to what we're supposed to be doing. I'm being very careful with the warp here feature, because obviously that's how I got into this mess. What I do is warp all the way out here. I don't want anything to do with mun at this point. What I'm actually after is getting able to see what it is I'm doing in orbit again. Right, so let's zoom out and see what we're doing. Okay, now I mean that's fairly obviously rubbish. What I need to do is get, I mean the apoapsis aren't that far off actually, which is quite good. I need to get this round here, get the periapsis raised and all this sort of stuff. Where is that other probe I launched? Eve Flyby 1 is not the one I'm after. Not that one. I have another probe on the go. Oh, there we are. That Eve return. Right. So what I'm now going to do is a little bit of fast forwarding. It'll slow back down again when we're back in solar orbit. And now we're around here, I can raise my periapsis again. Just to get it near is the idea. And that'll do. I'm going to work on this a little bit more, but we are going to get a tad closer in the meantime. Because I suspect we may have our little Eve business with that probe before we need to get where we're going. Because that should be around here somewhere. So what I need to do is that, switch to, because to be honest, if Jeb and the gang go around and around and around a few more times, it actually doesn't matter too much. Right, so that I'm going to warp all the way around there. So again, we can keep an eye on this this situation up here. The goal with the rescue mission is, I would say, I'm going to get it to its orbital apoapsis. I'm then going to raise its periapsis to get the two orbits. I want to be on the inside of it. Basically because one ship's here and one ship's here, so I want them to catch each other. But I want to make sure I've got a reasonable chance of doing it. Okay, I'm going to cancel that. Do it by hand. And warp here. Dink. Right. Now, this thing needs to get into orbit at this point, and then it needs to go home. So I need to see if I've got the fuel to even get it into orbit. Okay. Orbit, yes. Home, no. Okay. So this thing is now serving a completely different function because it's not going home. This is going into Eve orbit, and it is then going to function as a communications relay for the next one. That's how we're going to do this. Send that back. You see, I thought this thing would easily have the performance to do that. But it hasn't, because the Eve orbit isn't a very good one. But there we go. Never mind. That. Yes. Yeah, well, never mind. I've just put a probe up here. I can then go focus back on the rescue mission, which is what I'm going to do. And there we go. I'll get this into orbit and I'll be back with you. And this is just a very quick demonstration of why getting a decent encounter matters. Yeah, a better encounter, and I've had the fuel to do this. This is using way too much fuel to break into orbit. Own goal. And there we are. The newly renamed Eve Star 1 science relay. Yeah, anyway. Tracking station, let's go back to the rescue. I'm not having much luck with Eve. So these guys are here. These guys have plenty of... I'd say they had plenty of fuel left over. The last lot had plenty of fuel left over, and then look what happened. Right, so this is now here. This needs to get out to here. So yeah, I'm going to do that. It's fairly straightforward. And we're going to raise the periapsis. So we're going to lower the periapsis, not raise it, because the target vessel is actually below us. And we need to do this. Yeah, I want to be... At the moment they're catching us. I'd rather actually be slightly above them, but I want to get the orbit fairly similar, is the point. So that's there. We go sun retrograde for a second. Our periapsis will lower. And if we get inside, we'll start catching them, which... Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to raise the apoapsis up a bit more. Basically, I want them catching us because they're nearer to us in that orbit than we are to them. That'll do. And then we're going to go to there. See, we're no longer in communication. Kerbin's too far away. See, this was basically the reason I had to do this with a manned vessel. I couldn't really afford to do it with a probe, because I knew at the most inconvenient of moments I would lose contact and there'd be nothing else I could do. And then it'd just be like, oh, I'm sad now. So yes, I need to raise my apoapsis above the target crafts. It will then be catching us all the way round. And then it's really just like orbiting and rendezvousing with anything else, except it's going to take longer. So yes, I shall get into the rough orbital inclination thing, and then we will skip ahead until I've got the rendezvous. And hopefully 4,000 meters per second is enough. It should be. I said that last time, didn't I? I'm hoping if I say it often enough, I'm going to convince myself. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to get this rendezvous and I will catch you again. Occurred to me, I've got this thing, which did a lot of science and could never beam it back because it ran out of it went out of communications range. Whereas now, it's got that range again, so... I might as well beam it back. We might as well get the science we can get out of it. Right, anyway, so, yeah. Back to that. Back to our previously transmitted program, so to speak. Yeah, plane change burn has been done. That's where the intersect is. Go back again. Yeah, I'll be back in a minute. Or several minutes for me, but less for you. Okay, so here we are. approaching an intersection. It's not a brilliant one, 29,000 kilometres, but it'll do. Excuse me. What I'm going to do is now play around and tweak this a little bit. So we're time warping to here. What we're going to do now is basically follow what we would do if we were trying to dock and rendezvous anywhere else. So I'm going to kill the relative velocity. And then we're going to head towards the target, which should give us a better rendezvous. Now, see, obviously there we're a little bit far away, so what I'm going to do is now aim at the target, which should bring this back round and put us back closer together. With a bit of luck. Once we can stop the wobble slightly, but there we go, like that, and see, this isn't bringing us back round here, so we're going to be at much closer now, down to the thousands of kilometres, you see. So yes, I will continue to fine-tune this, and we will return when we are a little bit closer. Now, one thing to notice throughout all of this, all of our other contracts have timed out, and we now have basically no money left, which is, I mean, it is what it is. It's not ideal. But yeah, there we go. Never mind. It goes to there, then we can once more aim for the target. So yes, we're going to go home penniless. I did check the go to Eve and come back contract. It does require the same ship, not just the same crew. So we can't do anything to do with that. And the next time I send one out here, it will have a docking port on it. So if this happens again, I can just send a fuel tanker. Is the idea. So you see here, yes, we are getting quite close now. And obviously around a planet, this would be a huge orbital distance, but all the way out here, this is actually pretty good. Obviously, all I've really got to do is get close enough that those darling little Kerbals can go from one ship to the other by rocket pack, because that's how they're going to have to do it. So really, I want the ships. I mean, they've got to be within at least 2 kilometres of each other. In practice, I want them not quite touching, but sort of fairly close. Without fine-tuned thrusters on these things, it's always going to be a bit of a problem. But if I can get the craft to within like a reasonable distance, then a metre per second or so of each other, it should be quite a bit easier. So let's now play with this a little bit. I'll ignore that disappears off the screen while I do that, because I actually don't care, because it will come back when I go the other way. Round and round we go. Plenty of fuel left over, so I'm still hopeful we'll be able to get back. This is not going to be the world's most successful rescue mission, so Yes, anyway, just because of how long it's taken, and in fact everything else is timed out while I'm doing it. And what I'm doing, basically, I'm just getting closer until the rate the rendezvous improves at slows right down. And then I flip around again and we do it again. So we're down to 60 kilometres. We can do quite a lot better than that. So, well, we're going to have to do quite a lot better than that. So we're going to. Plus side, we have gained a huge amount of science. And we've got another 500 odd sitting on that orbital science lab. Not that we can get it back. I've sent another one of those little power module things out there. Yes, one thing to remember, if you're going to use those orbital science modules, by God they need some power going to them. So that'll do. And again, down to 20 odd. And this, yeah, the thing screws up when you're in time warp. It screws up its calculations quite a bit. But that's fine. But every time we do this, the rendezvous point gets... it stays ahead of us, which is useful. So that was just under 30. Let's see what we can get it down to this time. But yes, unless we get some rather good high prestige missions not long after we get back, the space program has a problem. Oh, look at that, 1.1 kilometre. 1 kilometre, 1.4. See, that is about what we need. So I'm now going to warp here, because from that we can just do it directly. I mean, the relative speed difference is within jetpacking distance now. Although I am going to get it a bit closer than this visually. Here we go. So, go here. That one? There we are. 11 kilometres away, it reckons. Well, that's fine because we've got this bit here to do. So... that. So it says now we'll get to 2.5. We're going to get a lot closer than that. We are now practically in the same orbit. Now obviously this isn't going to try and dock, which helps dramatically. There we are. That'll do. So we will warp there. Three kilometers away. Right, so I'm going to continue time warp, but I'm going to do it from this position here. So as you see, we're pretty good. I don't know exactly how close this is going to get us, but we are going to do it directly. So Val, Bob and Bill, Jeb is coming to get you. Because he's nice like that. Now, the sensible thing to do, in pure game terms, would have been to destroy the other ship, and then a little while later, the Kerbals would have respawned. I would have just had to run a little while with Jeb and whatever, but damn it, they needed rescuing. So we'll carry on with this until this gets nice and close. I don't actually want to hit it. I think we're going to go that way very slightly. And the reason we're going that way is to make sure we don't hit it. Because that would be embarrassing to fly all this way out here and then collide with each other. And to be honest, they could jetpack from where we are now, but I'd rather get a bit closer. Just because my jetpacking skills are not brilliant. Here we come. So what I'm going to do now is put that in fine-tuning mode. So we are going to find the other ship. I'm going to look towards it. Because what I want to do is orient the hatches to face the other ship, because it makes finding them a damn sight easier. Right, there we are. So when I do that, also turn the lights on, and find where the hatches are on this one. I believe is there, like so. Right, so Bob, you're going to grab all the science data because quite frankly you need to. You're then going to let go. You're going to turn your rocket pack on. And go over here like this, and hopefully in a minute be able to grab hold and get aboard. And the beauty is that you've got the science with you, so you're the important one. Oop. We've had another contract milestone there, but never mind. Grab board. Right, that's that one. Bill, you get to go and do exactly the same thing. Let go, rocket back on. Upwards very, very slightly, like so. And yeah, the secret with EVAing that I've found is very, very slowly and very, very carefully. The moment you start trying to do anything quickly is when you kill yourself. You should be able to grab hold of that shortly. Grab board. Right. What I've now got to do is a crew transfer. Bob can go into that bit at the top. The reason for that is because Val needs to be able to get in as well. Right, there's nothing on board there we want. Let go, get hold of that. And then off we go. And you're going to go up as well, up a little. Turn like that. Yink. Yeah, put your lights on, why not? Gotcha. Board. There we are. We now have the magic 4 on board. So I can kill that back to orbit. Right. Actually, what I need to do first off is get us away from that ship a little bit. So what we're going to do is this. So put the engine back to normal. And the reason for doing that is I want to get clear of that thing before we do anything else. Right. We've got them. And now I've got to go home. So Kerbin is now the target. The nodes are off. Yada yada yada. Right. So what we're going to do is go back to one of the nodes. So this takes us here, ascending node. So yeah, I've now basically got to do a rendezvous with Kerbin. Ideally in quite a similar way. I don't really want to catch Kerbin like here at this point, because the relative velocity will be massive. What I want is relative velocity to be... Basically, we're going to go in and we're going to graze, because I want some control when we get there. I've got a stupid amount of fuel left over. My ideal is to drop us into Kerbin orbit. Then we can do a deorbit burn and we can come in at a sensible speed. Don't have to worry too much about it. See, we're not quite in the plane yet. Once I've got it in the correct plane... So this is an ascending node, which is that one. Here we go. So I can get the plane relative to Kerbin where it needs to be. And this will just help. It'll help get the encounter, apart from anything else. So, yes. I will catch you again when I've got the encounter I need with Kerbin. I will see you soon. Yeah, so here I'm manoeuvring down. Now, if you will notice, I do keep getting brief encounters with Kerbin. I don't want them. They're far too higher relative velocity. What I actually want is an encounter, I mean, ideally round here somewhere where I've got the orbit fairly close, because then it'll be a... See, there we go, a little catchy one again as the orbits cross. Yeah, I want the relative speed to be reasonable. Because if the relative speed is reasonable, we will be able to do something with it about actually going home. This ship, it really isn't equipped for aero capture, which is basically diving into the atmosphere at interplanetary speeds and using that as a brake instead of using fuel. It can work. I mean, you have to design the ship to do it, really. You need something that can survive multiple passes through the atmosphere, so you want something with a bit more onboard power and other bits and pieces. You see now we're getting the encounter a lot more often. And each time we get it, it's actually a little bit better than the last. And gradually what will happen is this encounter will start to shift a little bit further around and it'll get a little bit longer. So we're starting to get the encounter pretty much in every orbit now. Hence those little blue markers going bananas. And this is the advantage we got, because I put myself pretty much in the same plane as Kerbin. We are going to get some very good encounters this way. Or at least we should. Yeah. Closest approach is going longer again, but that's fine. Because what I'm actually now going to do is warp around here. And raise the periapsis up a bit, which will put us in a broadly similar orbit, which will again should make getting an encounter a lot easier. And then we can go home. I say not rendezvous around the sun. Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, give us some science. Didn't really give us any money. It's the thing about these worlds first. You get a little bit of a science boost. You don't really get anything else. And when we get back, we shall have a look and see what can be done about the state of the finances. But that'll be the next episode. So what we now do is let me just make sure I've got this right. I'm here, the target is the yellow one, so I need to raise my periapsis. Just making sure I'm doing it in the right direction. And see, I don't really care where in the orbit I get the encounter either. You see, the closest approach, the separation is now shrinking. Shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And with luck, this means we'll get the encounter fairly shortly. Right. That's that. Kerbin's still going to catch us. Because its orbit's lower. With a bit of luck, we're going to get a good close approach. So I'm now going to zoom around. May take another orbit or two. I'll be back when we have the encounter. Okay, so I'm now just going to try and fine-tune this a little bit and see if I can get the encounter I'm after. hard. I just need to make it so I can actually see what I'm doing. There we are. That there, Kerbin periapsis. That'll do. So what I now need to do is a little bit careful with the warp here feature, since, like I say, that's how we got into this mess in the first place. So this should be a glancing encounter. And Jim Kirk, eat your heart out, 5-year mission. This is closer to a 20-year one. Yeah, anyway. This was supposed to be an out and back jaunt to Eve. And yes. But no Kerbal left behind. I don't care how insane it is, no Kerbal left behind. The delight of a career mode playthrough is you never quite know what you're going to get. Here we come, so that's that. We are now going to go to there, just within Kerbin's sphere of influence. And from there I shall see what we can do. Ding! There we go, right. Now, Kerbin periapsis is there, so if I do a little bit of... Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a manoeuvre in. If I stick a manoeuvre in, I can have a play with it, you see. Specifically, I can see how much it's going to cost me to do things that I might want to do. Yeah. I want to get to about... See, this is putting me into orbit nicely. Down to about 100k. The reason I want to get down to about 100k, it'll then be a lot more efficient to lower this part of the orbit down. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to warp to that manoeuvre. And complete that burn. So now this, you see, orbital velocity is quite low. You may have noticed when we went to Eve, the orbital velocity was like, hang on a minute, that's over 1,000 meters per second, or nearly 2,000. Yeah, that's because the angle of the approach in wasn't very good, because my ability to actually do the initial orbit isn't very good. If I could get the orbit better like this, those missions would use an awful lot less fuel. And the fuel usage charts and so on and so forth I have seen all assume you know what you're doing. There we are. Now, we're going to stay at about 100,000. Kill that manoeuvre. So we're going to go to there. But we are now in Kerbin orbit, so we are not going to be leaving. We're in quite an inclined orbit, which is good because this means we're not going to have problems with Mun, which is the other annoyance. As you come in, as is Duna is a bit of a pain in the neck because you get in and Duna's moon Ike is huge, has a huge sphere of influence, and you look at it and you go, right, because you thought you had a lovely manoeuvre, then you start playing around and Ike gets hold of you and goes, not today, sunshine, and throws you out of the system, which is a little bit annoying. That's not strictly speaking true, it's actually extremely annoying. So warp to that point, which is our low point. We will then, you see here, the orbital velocity is increasing. We won't actually be able to get into a proper low orbit, but I will be able to get into a lower orbit. Basically, a lower orbit is slightly safer. So what I'm going to do now is burn a chunk of fuel, although very firmly not all of it. I want to get within Mun's orbit if I can, because we know we can return safely from Mun with a craft like this. And the nearer to Mun we get. The drawback is we're going to land in the dark again. Don't like landing in the dark. There isn't a great deal I can do about it, it must be said. Periapsis is dropping nicely. What I'm actually going to do is just see what happens if I burn virtually all my fuel. Oh no, we can't. Ah! Periapsis is over there. Actually, so long as we end up going back in somewhere in daylight, I'm actually quite happy with that. I wouldn't mind landing on land so that we can all get out and pose with a flag. But I'll take what I can get, quite frankly. So I'm actually going to drop in so we're about here somewhere, and then hopefully we'll land over this bit of land. We'll see. Yeah, don't need that anymore. So I know we've got the fuel to do this. Yes. Oh, the thrill of a successful mission. Yeah, that is actually, and I mean this genuinely here, that is the first deep space rescue I've done. I've done rescues from planets where you've got the advantage of, oh, I will go to the planet, its gravity well will grab me and I can save myself that way. I'm quite happy with that. But that is the first actual deep space. I'm going to go out, somebody's lost, I'm going to bring them home mission I have ever done. I feel quite happy with that. Yeah, I find myself being pleased. Hey, we could go and try and land at the pole. Big polar ice cap. Try that. And we're definitely coming down now, so I do that. Then we're going to go there, because now, whatever happens, we are going home. So what I should now be able to do with a little bit of luck. Oop, right. What I'm trying to do is rotate that orbit slightly. That one to do it. Oops, sorry. Wait, oh, that one. I really do want to land on land. Essentially, I just want to do a picture of them all standing next to the thing. You watch, I'm going to kill them all by crashing into a mountain now. That'll do. Right. Map. So, surface, retrograde. Whee, look, it's Kerbin. So we are going that way. Turn that onto radar. And let's go play in traffic, so to speak. And that, so I can keep track of the upper module. There we go. Goodbye, faithful spacecraft. You have served us well. We are now going home. And we are going to leave a nuclear-powered reactor engine thing to also enter the atmosphere and burn up. We're not going to talk about that bit. I don't think anything could possibly go wrong with that. There we are. Yeah, the upstage will go off. Arm all the parachutes. And actually, this re-entry, if anything, is one of our lower speed ones. So I will see you all on the ground after, I hope, a successful landing. Well, I have to say, I'm not entirely sure how, but bits of our mothership have actually survived as well, which I find absolutely remarkable. Right, so Jeb, you are going to go on an EVA. You are going to climb down there. You are going to let go. Walk over there. I forgot about that. Remove helmet. That'll do. Rescue. Val, you are going to go EVA as well. I'm grabbing a screen grab of that. And with that, we have successfully landed. We have successfully gone. I'm going to recover all of those. We are going to grab whatever science we've got, and then we're going to see what state we're in briefly when we get back. So that we have got brought Bob back. Advanced to level 3. Ooh, that's useful. Right, so what I now need to do is turn off everything except Kerbals, because all I want to do is recover. We've learnt a fair bit. Val, we are going to recover. Jeb, we are going to recover. And then the ship itself we're going to recover, which gives us a good old chunk of science. And we can't do anything with those because they're orbiting things. Right. And with that, rather lengthy mission. So you see, that one is still active. We don't have the money to do it. There's some others we might have the money to do. Plant a flag on Eve. You can so take that and stick that up. Anyway, never mind. Yes, with that, thank you very much for watching. Anyone who's stuck with this, you deserve to get yourself a nice cold drink, which is what I'm about to go and do. I will see you all in the next one, where we try and work out what exactly we can do with the space program with not a lot of money, but plenty of science. We are not giving up on this. Yes. Yeah, if you stick with this one, I think you deserve the likes, shares, subscriptions, and all that yourselves. But anyway, I will catch you on the next one. Thank you very much, and goodbye.